Theory 1. Dumbledore is death. Dumbledore isn't just a wise old wizard. He's literally death from the tale of three brothers. In the story, three brothers cheat death. The first brother asks for an unbeatable wand. Death gives him the Elder Wand. He dies violently. The second brother asks to bring back the dead. Death gives him the Resurrection Stone. He kills himself from grief. The third brother asks for something that lets him hide from death until he's ready. Death gives him the Invisibility Cloak. He lives a full life. Then greets death as an old friend and goes willingly. Now map that onto the series. Voldemort sought the Elder Wand, died violently. Snape used the Resurrection Stone's memory of Lily to fuel his entire life, died in grief. Harry owned the Invisibility Cloak, walked into the forest to meet Dumbledore, greeted him as an old friend. Dumbledore gave Harry the cloak. Dumbledore possessed the Elder Wand. Dumbledore held the Resurrection Stone. Death owned all three Hallows. So did Dumbledore. Rowling was asked about this theory directly. She called it her favorite. That's not a denial, that's a confession. Theory 2. The Dursleys were cruel because Harry was a Horcrux. The Dursleys are terrible people, but maybe not entirely by choice. Harry was an accidental Horcrux. A piece of Voldemort's soul lived inside him for 17 years. The Dursleys lived in the same house as that fragment for 11 of those years. Now look at what happened every single time someone spent extended time near a Horcrux in the series. Ron wore the locket for weeks. He became paranoid, aggressive, cruel to his closest friends. Ginny carried the diary. She became withdrawn and violent. Dumbledore wore the ring. It nearly killed him. The Dursleys weren't near a Horcrux for weeks. They were near one for over a decade. Fans note that before Harry arrived, the Dursleys were boring but functional. After 11 years of living with a soul fragment, they became genuinely abusive. Petunia's resentment of Lily existed before Harry, but the intensity of it grew worse every year. So the Dursleys weren't just bad people. They were psychologically poisoned by dark magic they couldn't see or understand. That's 11 years of Voldemort rotting a family from the inside without anyone knowing. Theory 3. Neville Longbottom was the real chosen one. The prophecy never said Harry Potter. It described two boys, born to those who thrice defied Voldemort, born as the 7th month dies. Both Harry and Neville fit perfectly. The prophecy didn't choose Harry. Voldemort did. He attacked the Potters because he saw a half-blood like himself as the greater threat. He ignored the pureblood. But what if he chose wrong? Fans point out Neville's arc across 7 books mirrors a chosen one narrative more closely than Harry's. He starts as the weakest, grows the most, destroys the final Horcrux, kills Nagini when everything is lost and Harry is believed dead. In the moment that matters most, Neville is the one standing. The prophecy says the Dark Lord will mark him as his equal. Voldemort marked Harry with a scar, but he marked Neville with something worse. He tortured his parents into permanent insanity, left the boy alive with nothing but the knowledge of what was taken. So Voldemort didn't just choose wrong. He created his own downfall by underestimating the boy he dismissed. That's the prophecy working exactly as intended. Theory 4. Crookshanks was the Potter's cat. Crookshanks recognized Peter Pettigrew the moment he saw him. No hesitation, no learning period, immediate hostility toward a rat he had never met, unless he had met him before. The Potters owned a cat. This is mentioned in the books. When Voldemort attacked Godric's Hollow, the cat survived and ended up in the magical menagerie in Diagon Alley. Crookshanks had been in that shop for years before Hermione bought him. Nobody wanted him. Fans note Crookshanks is described as half Kneazle. Kneazles can detect untrustworthy people and have supernaturally long memories. He didn't just dislike Scabbers. He hunted him with purpose. He also immediately trusted Sirius Black, who was an innocent man and the Potter's closest friend. So Crookshanks wasn't a random pet with good instincts. He was a witness. The Potter's own cat recognized the man who betrayed them and spent an entire book trying to finish what Voldemort started. Theory 5. Voldemort can't love because he was conceived under a love potion. Voldemort's inability to love isn't a personality trait. It's a birth defect. His mother, Merope Gaunt, used a love potion on Tom Riddle Sr. continuously. She became pregnant while the potion was active. When she stopped administering it, he abandoned her immediately. Rowling addressed this directly. She said, "Children conceived under love potions grow up fundamentally unable to understand or experience love. Not unwilling, unable. It's a magical birth condition that cannot be reversed." Fans point out this changes Voldemort from a monster who chose evil to a victim who never had the option. He literally could not feel the one thing that would have saved him. Every choice he made was filtered through that absence. So, Voldemort's mother didn't just create a dark wizard. She created a being chemically incapable of the one human experience that makes life worth living. That's not villainy. That's tragedy manufactured before birth. Theory 6. Trelawney was right about everything. Sybil Trelawney is treated as a joke by every character in the series. The books frame her as a fraud. Students mock her. Dumbledore keeps her around out of pity. But go back and check every single prediction she made. She tells Neville he'll break a teacup. He does. She predicts a student will leave around Easter. Hermione quits her class. She sees the Grim in Harry's cup. Sirius Black appears. She says Lupin will leave soon. He does. She pulls the lightning-struck tower card. Dumbledore dies on the astronomy tower. She predicts 13 dining together, and the first to rise will be the first to die. Dumbledore rises first. Dumbledore dies first. Every single one. Fans note she even predicted her own dismissal and the return of Voldemort through offhand remarks nobody took seriously because she delivered them in a dramatic voice. So, Trelawney wasn't a fraud performing prophecy. She was a genuine seer whose accuracy was dismissed because nobody liked her presentation. That's the cruelest irony in the series. The one person telling the truth was the one nobody believed. Theory 7. Dumbledore planned his own death from Book 1. Most people think Dumbledore planned his death in Half-Blood Prince. The theory says no. He planned it from the moment Harry walked into Hogwarts. In Philosopher's Stone, Dumbledore sets up a series of protections around the stone that first-year students can solve. He places the Mirror of Erised as the final barrier, knowing Harry is the only person who would want the stone without wanting to use it. Fans note Dumbledore didn't protect the stone. He built a training course. Every challenge tested a specific skill Harry would need later. Logic, courage, loyalty, sacrifice. Then look at every year after. Dumbledore consistently allows Harry to face mortal danger instead of intervening. The Chamber of Secrets, the Triwizard Tournament, the Department of Mysteries. Each time Dumbledore had the power to prevent it and chose not to. Supporters argue Dumbledore knew from year 1 that Harry would need to die. Every year was preparation for that moment. Every near-death experience was a rehearsal. So Dumbledore didn't sacrifice himself in Book 6. He spent 6 years preparing a child to sacrifice himself in Book 7. That's not protection. That's grooming for martyrdom. Theory 8. Draco Malfoy was bitten by Fenrir Greyback. Draco's behavior in Half-Blood Prince changes completely. He's pale, sick, withdrawn, emotionally volatile, missing from classes for extended periods. The book explains this as stress from his mission to kill Dumbledore. The theory says something else happened to him first. Fenrir Greyback was stationed at Malfoy Manor as Voldemort's enforcer. He was known to target children specifically. He bit Lupin as a child purely for revenge against Lupin's father. Fans note Draco's symptoms in Book 6 mirror Lupin's described experience almost exactly. The exhaustion, the mood swings, the physical deterioration, the isolation from friends. Supporters point out that Voldemort punished the Malfoy family repeatedly throughout the series. Allowing Greyback to bite Draco would be exactly the kind of cruel punishment Voldemort would inflict to keep Lucius loyal through fear. So Draco's mission to kill Dumbledore wasn't just about redeeming the family name. It was about a bitten 16-year-old desperately trying to prove he still had value before the monster inside him took over. That's not villainy, that's survival. Theory 9. Hagrid is a Death Eater. This theory broke the internet, and it is deeply uncomfortable because the evidence actually holds up. Hagrid brings Harry into the wizarding world. He's Harry's first friend. He is the emotional heart of the series. And the theory argues every single one of those things is suspicious. Who conveniently collects Harry from the Dursleys? Hagrid. Who accidentally tells Harry exactly how to get past Fluffy? Hagrid. Who illegally acquires a dragon egg from a stranger in a pub who just happens to ask the right questions about Hogwarts security? Hagrid. Who introduces Harry to the Forbidden Forest, Aragog, and multiple life-threatening creatures. Hagrid. Who consistently leaks sensitive order information through carelessness. Hagrid. Fans note that every single major security breach at Hogwarts can be traced back to something Hagrid said or did. The theory argues this isn't stupidity, it's strategy. Supporters point out Hagrid was expelled from Hogwarts for a crime he didn't commit. Dumbledore gave him a home and a job. The theory asks, what if someone else gave him a different kind of loyalty before Dumbledore got there? So, the most lovable character in the series is either the most incompetent ally in literary history or the most effective double agent. That's the version of this theory nobody wants to be true. Theory 10. The Sorting Hat placed Harry in Gryffindor to defeat Voldemort. The Hat wanted to put Harry in Slytherin. Harry begged it not to. The Hat listened. But sorting hats don't take requests. The Hat is sentient. It contains the combined intelligence of all 4 Hogwarts founders. It has sorted every witch and wizard for 1,000 years. It has seen Dark Lords rise and fall. It knows exactly what it's doing every single time. Fans note the Hat tells Harry he would do well in Slytherin, not that he belongs there. The distinction matters. The Hat isn't sorting by personality. It's sorting by purpose. A Slytherin Harry allies with Draco, gains Voldemort's trust through the Horcrux connection, potentially joins him. A Gryffindor Harry opposes Voldemort from day one, builds alliances with the people who will fight beside him when it matters. So the Hat didn't listen to Harry's preference. It made Harry think it was his choice. That's 1,000 years of strategic intelligence disguised as a polite conversation with an 11-year-old. Theory 11. Snape's cruelty to Neville had nothing to do with bullying. Snape was horrible to Neville, publicly humiliated him, targeted him above every other student. The books frame this as Snape being a bully. The theory says it was something much darker. The prophecy applied to 2 boys, Harry and Neville. Voldemort chose Harry, but if he had chosen Neville, the Potters would have survived. Lily would have lived. Snape knew this. Every time Snape looked at Neville, he saw the boy whose existence meant Lily had to die. Not because Neville did anything wrong, but because the prophecy needed one of them, and Voldemort didn't pick Neville. Fans note, Snape never physically harmed Neville. He psychologically tormented him, the kind of cruelty that comes from grief, not sadism. Snape wasn't punishing Neville for being weak. He was punishing him for being alive while Lily wasn't. So Neville's boggart wasn't Snape the bully. It was the physical embodiment of a dead woman's lover who blamed a child for a loss that happened before the child could speak. That's not cruelty. That's displaced grief weaponized against a 13-year-old. Theory 12. George Weasley became Willy Wonka. George lost an ear in the Battle of the 7 Potters. Then he lost Fred, his twin, his other half, the person who finished his sentences and shared every idea he ever had. After the war, George took over Weasley's Wizard Wheezes alone, a magical candy and joke shop built on inventions he and Fred created together. Now look at Willy Wonka, a reclusive candy manufacturer, eccentric, brilliant, runs a factory full of impossible sweets, has clearly experienced deep personal loss, but never discusses it. Fans point out both characters create candy that does impossible things. Both isolate themselves inside their work. Both use humor to mask something broken underneath. The timeline works if George eventually left the wizarding world and built a new identity among Muggles, a place where nobody knew Fred, where he could keep inventing without every creation reminding him of the person who should have been standing next to him. So George didn't just open a candy shop, he buried himself inside one. That's not a career change, that's grief wearing a top hat. Theory 13. Wizards hide from Muggles because they lost. The International Statute of Secrecy went into effect in 1692. Most fans assume wizards chose to hide because they were above Muggle conflict. The theory says they were forced into hiding because they lost. The witch trials weren't random persecution. They were a coordinated campaign that actually worked. Muggles outnumber wizards millions to 1. Wizards have magic. Muggles have numbers. And numbers win wars. Fans note that the books mention witch burnings being mostly ineffective individually. But the real damage wasn't physical. It was social. Wizards were hunted from their communities. Exposed, isolated, forced underground. The Statute of Secrecy reads very differently if you see it as a surrender treaty rather than a lifestyle choice. Wizards didn't choose to hide. They were driven into hiding by a species that outnumbered them so severely that magic couldn't compensate. So the entire wizarding world isn't a hidden civilization by choice. It's a refugee population living in fear of the species that already beat them once. That's not superiority. That's survival dressed up as tradition. Theory 14. Dumbledore is a time-traveling Ron Weasley. This is the most absurd theory on this list, and somehow the evidence is genuinely uncomfortable. Dumbledore and Ron share physical descriptions that overlap more than they should. Both are described as tall and thin. Both have long fingers. Ron has red hair. Dumbledore's hair was auburn before it turned white. Auburn is just aged red. Fans note both share a love of sweets. Dumbledore's chocolate frog card says he enjoys chamber music and 10-pin bowling. Ron is repeatedly associated with both chess and sweets. Dumbledore sees himself holding thick woolen socks in the mirror of Erised. Ron's mother knits him socks every Christmas. The theory argues Ron traveled back in time and lived an entire second life as Dumbledore, guiding Harry through the same events from a position of power. Supporters point out Dumbledore seems to know exactly how Ron will behave in every situation, almost as if he remembers being him. So the wisest wizard in history might just be the comic relief character who grew up and went back to make sure everything happened correctly. That's either the most brilliant theory ever written or the most unhinged. There is no middle ground. Theory 15. Harry became immortal after possessing all 3 Deathly Hallows. Harry held the Elder Wand. He used the Resurrection Stone. He owned the Invisibility Cloak. For one moment in the series, he possessed all 3 Deathly Hallows simultaneously. The legend says whoever unites all 3 becomes the Master of Death. Most readers interpret this as metaphorical. Harry mastered death by accepting it. The theory says no, it's literal. Fans note that after uniting the Hallows, Harry walked into the Forbidden Forest and was hit by Avada Kedavra directly. He did not die. The Horcrux inside him was destroyed, but Harry survived the killing curse for the second time in his life. Nobody else in the history of the wizarding world has ever survived it once. The theory argues the Hallows granted Harry genuine immortality, not invincibility, not power, just the inability to stay dead. Master of Death doesn't mean you understand death. It means death no longer applies to you. So Harry didn't just defeat Voldemort, he accidentally became the thing Voldemort spent his entire life trying to be. That's the irony. The boy who accepted death became immune to it. The man who feared death was destroyed by it. Theory 16. The Marauder's map never lies. The map shows every person inside Hogwarts, their real name, their real location. No exceptions. No disguises work against it. Fred and George had this map for years. They would have seen Peter Pettigrew sleeping in Ron's bed every single night, a man they'd never heard of, in their brother's dormitory. The theory asks why they never questioned this. Fans note the map also showed Barty Crouch Jr. throughout the entire 4th book. He was disguised as Mad-Eye Moody using Polyjuice Potion, but the map would have shown his real name. Anyone who looked would have seen a dead man walking around Hogwarts. Nobody looked. Supporters point out the map's magic was created by some of the most brilliant wizards of their generation. Lupin, Sirius, James, Pettigrew himself. They built it to be impossible to fool because they knew people would try. So the most powerful surveillance tool in the entire series was sitting in a student's pocket for 3 years, while a murderer slept 10 feet from its owner. That's not a plot hole. That's the scariest detail in the franchise. Theory 17. Hogwarts was built as a weapon, not a school. Hogwarts has a 3-headed dog, a basilisk in the basement, a forest full of giant spiders and centaurs, moving staircases that trap the unfamiliar, a tree that attacks anyone who approaches it, a room that transforms into whatever the user needs. No school needs any of this. Fans note the castle has sentient defenses that activate during battle. In Deathly Hallows, the suits of armor fight, the statues move. The building itself protects its occupants with coordinated military response. The theory argues the founders didn't build a school, they built a fortress and disguised it as one. The location is unplottable. It's surrounded by magical barriers. The grounds are filled with creatures that serve as natural defense systems. Every architectural choice is defensive. Supporters point out the Chamber of Secrets contains a weapon specifically designed to purge the building of certain occupants. Slytherin built a kill switch into a school for children. So, Hogwarts isn't an educational institution that happens to be dangerous. It's a military installation that happens to teach classes. That's the founders' real legacy. A weapon disguised as a school for 1,000 years. Theory 18. Arthur Weasley was supposed to die. This one isn't a theory. It's a confirmed fact that raises a disturbing question. Rowling publicly stated she originally planned to kill Arthur Weasley when Nagini attacked him in Order of the Phoenix. She changed her mind because she felt the Weasley family needed a father figure. But the theory asks, what if the original draft was the real story? Fans note that Arthur's survival changes the entire emotional trajectory of the series. His death would have been the first major loss for a family the reader deeply loved. It would have radicalized the Weasley children 2 books earlier. Ron's character arc becomes entirely different if his father dies at 15. Supporters argue Rowling's instinct to kill Arthur was narratively correct. She overwrote it with sentiment. The story asked for his death. She refused to give it. So the question isn't whether Arthur should have died, it's whether Rowling's mercy actually weakened the story she was trying to tell. That's not comfortable, but neither is the alternative. Theory 19. Moaning Myrtle was Tom Riddle's first Horcrux kill. Creating a Horcrux requires murder. The first Horcrux Voldemort ever made was the diary. Someone had to die for it. Myrtle Warren died in a bathroom at Hogwarts, killed by the basilisk that Tom Riddle released from the Chamber of Secrets. The timing matches exactly. Fans note Myrtle's death is treated as an unfortunate accident in the books. A Muggle-born student in the wrong place at the wrong time. But the theory argues it wasn't accidental at all. Riddle needed a death to fracture his soul for the first time. He opened the chamber. He released the basilisk. Myrtle was the target. Specific, deliberate, chosen. Supporters point out Riddle showed zero remorse and immediately used her death to create the diary. The speed suggests premeditation, not opportunity. So the ghost who haunts the bathroom and cries for eternity isn't just a tragic character. She was the first human sacrifice in Voldemort's quest for immortality. That's the weight of her death. Not sadness, not accident, ritual. Theory 20. The Ministry of Magic was designed to be corrupt. The Ministry isn't a good institution that was infiltrated by dark wizards. The theory argues it was built by them. Look at its structure. The Minister for Magic has almost no checks on their power. The Wizengamot serves as both legislature and court. There is no separation of powers, no constitution, no Bill of Rights for magical citizens. Fans note the Ministry legalized Dementors as prison guards. Soul-sucking demons that feed on human happiness were considered an acceptable form of incarceration. That's not a policy failure, that's a design choice. The Muggle-born Registration Commission wasn't a Voldemort invention. It was implemented through existing Ministry infrastructure overnight. The systems were already in place. The forms existed. The bureaucracy was ready. Supporters argue a corrupt takeover shouldn't be that easy, unless the system was designed to enable exactly that kind of takeover from the beginning. So the Ministry didn't fall to Voldemort. It performed exactly as it was built to perform. That's the most disturbing theory on this list. The institution protecting the wizarding world was never designed to protect anyone. 20 theories. Some of them are ridiculous. Some of them are backed by evidence that Rowling herself couldn't deny. A few of them change the way you read the entire series. The books gave you one story on the surface. These theories found another one underneath. Drop a comment and tell me which theory completely changed Harry Potter for you. Subscribe to Lore Unpacked. New videos every week. See you in the next one.